Street Fighter, commonly abbreviated as SF or to the First of Florin, is a series of fighting games by Capcom. The game's playable characters originate from around the world, each with his or her own unique fighting style. It is Capcom's second best-selling franchise, enjoying significant success all around the world. History. Video games, Street Fighter. Street Fighter, designed by Takashi Nishiyama and Hiroshi Matsumoto, made its debut in the arcades in 1987. In this game, the player takes control of martial artist Ryu, who competes in a worldwide martial arts tournament, spanning 5 countries and 10 opponents. A second player can join in at any time and take control of Ryu's rival, Ken. The player can perform 3 types of punch and kick attacks, each varying in speed and strength, and 3 special attacks, the Hadouken, Shoryuken, and Tozumaki Senpukyaku. These are performed by executing special button combinations with the controls. Street Fighter was ported to many popular home computer systems of the time, including PC. In 1988, it was released on the NEC Avenue TurboGrafx CD console under the new name Fighting Street. Street Fighter was later included in Capcom Classics Collection, remixed for the PlayStation Portable and Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Street Fighter II Series. Street Fighter II, The World Warrior, released in 1991, was the first true sequel to the original Street Fighter. This release followed an unsuccessful attempt to brand the 1989 beat-em-up game Final Fight and officially commissioned spin-off Human Killing Machine on the ZX Spectrum, Amiga, and other home computers as Street Fighter sequels. It was one of the earliest arcade games for Capcom's CP system hardware and was designed by Akira Nishitani and Akira Yasuda, the designers responsible for Final Fight and Forgotten Worlds. Street Fighter II is the first one-on-one fighting game to give players a choice from a variety of player characters with different moves. The choice of multiple available characters allows for more varied matches. In this game, each player character had a unique fighting style with approximately 30 or more moves, including their new grappling moves and throws, as well as 2 or 3 special attacks per character. In the single-player mode, the player's chosen character is pitted sequentially against the 7 other main characters before confronting the final 4 boss opponents, who consist of CPU-controlled characters not selectable by the player. As in the original, a second player could join in at any point during single-player mode and compete against the other player in competitive matches. The original Japanese version of Street Fighter II introduced an African-American boxer boss character, a parody of real-life boxer Mike Tyson. In order to avoid any likeness infringement lawsuit from Tyson, Capcom rotated the names of 3 of the boss characters for international versions of the game. The final boss, named Vega in the Japanese version, was given the M. Bison name. The talon-wielding Spanish warrior, named Barog in the Japanese version, was renamed Vega, and the boxer became Barog. Street Fighter II eclipsed its predecessor in popularity, eventually turning Street Fighter into a multimedia franchise. The release of the game had an unexpected impact on gaming and was the beginning of a massive phenomenon. By 1993, sales of Street Fighter II exceeded $1.5 billion in revenue. The first official update to the series was Street Fighter II, Champion Edition, pronounced Street Fighter II- in Japan, as noted by the prime notation on the logo. In this game, players are allowed to play as the 4 computer-controlled boss characters and 2 players are able to choose the same character. In this case, one character wears an alternate color pattern. The game also features slightly improved graphics, including differently colored backgrounds and refined gameplay. A second upgrade, titled Street Fighter II, Hyper Fighting, called Street Fighter II- Turbo in Japan, was produced in response to the various bootleg editions of the game. Hyper Fighting offers faster gameplay than its predecessors, different character colors, and new special techniques. Super Street Fighter II, The New Challengers, the 3rd revision, gives the game a complete graphical and musical overhaul and introduces 4 new playable characters. It is also the first game for Capcom a Euro unregistered trademark SCP System 2 arcade hardware. The fifth arcade installment, Super Street Fighter II Turbo, Super Street Fighter II X in Japan, brings back the faster gameplay of hyper fighting, a new type of special techniques known as super combos, and a hidden character, Akuma. Numerous home versions of the Street Fighter II games have been produced following the release of the original game. The original Street Fighter II was ported to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1992. As of 2008, the original SNES game is still Capcom's best-selling game. It was followed by a Japanese-only version of Street Fighter II - for the PC Engine in 1993. That year, Hyper Fighting received two different home versions as well, an SNES version titled Street Fighter II Turbo and a Sega Genesis counterpart titled Street Fighter II A Euro Special Champion Edition, Street Fighter II - Plus in Japan. The following game, Super Street Fighter II, was also ported to the SNES and Genesis in 1994. Later that year, Super Street Fighter II Turbo was released for the 3Do interactive multiplayer and also appeared in a PC version for Windows, released by the now-defunct GameTech. In 1997, Capcom released the Street Fighter Collection for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn. This is a compilation that includes Super and Super Turbo as well as the newer Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, Street Fighter 02 A Euro Squared in Japan. It was followed by Street Fighter Collection 2, Capcom Generation Volume 5 in Japan, also released for the PlayStation and Saturn, which includes the original Street Fighter II, Champion Edition, and Hyper Fighting. In 2000, Capcom released Super Street Fighter II X for matching service in Japan for the Dreamcast. This version of the game features an online two-player versus mode. In 2003, Capcom released Hyper Street Fighter II, the anniversary edition for the arcades in Japan and Asia to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the series. As the final arcade installment, the game is a hybrid version of Super Turbo, which allows player to select between versions of characters from all 5 previous Street Fighter II games. Hyper was released in North America and the PAL region via its ports for the PlayStation 2 and the XBOX, released as part of the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection along with Street Fighter III Third Strike. In 2005, the 3 games in Street Fighter Collection 2 were included in Capcom Classics Collection Volume 1 for PlayStation 2 and XBOX. A version of Super Turbo, along with the original Street Fighter, was later included in the 2007 compilation Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2, also released for the PS2 and XBOX. Street Fighter II and Super Street Fighter II are also available as downloadable games for select cellular phone services. An updated version of Super Street Fighter II Turbo came to the PlayStation Network and XBOX Live Arcade service in November 2008. The game, titled Super Street Fighter II Turbo HD Remix, has fully redrawn artwork, including HD sprites 4.5x the original size, drawn by artists from UDON. This is the first time the Street Fighter characters have had new sprites, drawn by Capcom, since Capcom vs SNK 2 in 2001. The game has several changes which address character balancing issues, but also features the original arcade version gameplay so that players can choose between the two. Street Fighter Alpha Series. The Intercal, Street Fighter Alpha, Warrior's Dreams, Street Fighter Zero in Japan and Asia, is the next game in the series. The game uses the same art style Capcom previously employed in Darkstalkers and X-Men, Children of the Atom, with settings and character designs heavily influenced by Street Fighter II, the animated movie. Alpha expands on the Super Combo system from Super Turbo by extending Super Combo Meter into 3 levels, allowing for Super Combos to be stored up, and introducing Alpha counters and chain combos, also from Darkstalkers. The plot of Alpha is set between the first 2 Street Fighter games and fleshes out the backstories and grudges held by many of the classic SFII characters. It features a playable roster of 10 immediately playable characters and 3 unlockable fighters, comprising not only younger versions of established Street Fighter II, but also characters from the original Street Fighter and Final Fight, such as Adorn and Guy. Street Fighter Alpha 2 features all new stages, music, and endings for some characters, some of which overlap with those from the original Alpha. It also discards the chain combo system in favor of custom combos, which requires a portion of the super combo meter to be used. Alpha 2 retains all 13 characters from the original and adds 5 new characters to the roster along with hidden versions of returning characters. Alpha 2 is followed by a slightly enhanced arcade release titled Street Fighter 02 Alpha and was released in Japan and Brazil, ported to home consoles as Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, 02 a Euro² in Japan. The third and final Alpha game, Street Fighter Alpha 3, was released in 1998 following the release of the original Street Fighter 3, Second Impact and Street Fighter X. Alpha 3 introduces 3 selectable fighting styles and further expands the playable roster to 28 characters. Console versions of the 3 games, including the original Alpha 2 and the aforementioned Alpha 2 Gold, were released for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn, although versions of specific games in the series were also released for the Game Boy Color, Super NES, Dreamcast, and even Windows. The home console versions of Alpha 3 further expands the character roster by adding the remaining new challenges from Super Street Fighter 2. The Dreamcast version of the game was back-ported to the arcades in Japan under the title of Street Fighter 03 Upper. A version of Upper, simply titled Alpha 3 outside Japan, was released for the Game Boy Advance and added 3 characters from Capcom vs SNK 2. A PlayStation Portable version titled Alpha 3 Max, 03 Double Upper in Japan, contains the added characters from the GBA version and Ingrid from Capcom Fighting Jam. Street Fighter X series. In 1996, Capcom co-produced a 3D fighting game spin-off titled Street Fighter X with Arika, a company founded by former Street Fighter II planner Akira Nishitani. It was developed for the PlayStation-based ZN1 hardware. X combined the established Street Fighter cast with original characters created and owned by Arika. It was followed by an upgraded version titled Street Fighter X Plus in 1997, which expanded the character roster. A home version with further additional characters and features, Street Fighter X Plus Alpha, was released for the PlayStation during the same year. A sequel was released in 1998, titled Street Fighter EX2, developed for the ZN2 hardware. Custom combos were reintroduced and the character roster was expanded upon even further. EX2 also received an upgraded version, Street Fighter EX2 Plus, released in 1999. A PlayStation version of EX2 Plus, was also released. The third game in the series, Street Fighter EX3, was released as a launch title for the PlayStation 2 in 2000. This game included a tag teams system, a mode that let a single player fight up to 3 opponents simultaneously, and another mode that allowed players to give the new character, Ace, a selection of special and super moves after purchasing them with experience points. The cast included many characters from the previous game. Some of the Arika-owned characters from the series were later featured in other games developed by the company. The Namco-distributed arcade game Fighting Lair featured Alan Snyder and Blair Dame from the original X, while Skullomania would reappear in the PlayStation game Fighter Maker and the PlayStation 2 music game Technictix vs. series. Capcom has also produced fighting games involving licensed characters from other companies and their own properties. In 1994, Capcom released the Marvel-licensed fighting game X-Men, Children of the Atom, which featured Aquaman from Super Turbo as a hidden guest character. It was followed by Marvel's Superheroes in 1995, which featured Anita from Night Warriors. Capcom would release a third Marvel-licensed game, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, in 1996, a full-fledged crossover between characters from X-Men and the Street Fighter Alpha games that featured a 2-on-2 tag team-based system. It was followed by Marvel's Superheroes vs. Street Fighter in 1997, which expanded the roster to include characters from Marvel's Superheroes. Marvel vs. Capcom in 1998, which featured not only Street Fighter characters, but also characters from other Capcom properties. And Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in 2000, which was produced from the Dreamcast-based Naomi hardware. Capcom also produced a series of similar crossover fighting games with rival fighting game developer SNK Playmore. The games, produced by Capcom, include Capcom vs SNK in 2000, which features characters primarily from the Street Fighter and King of Fighters series. It was followed by a minor upgrade, Capcom vs SNK Pro, and a sequel titled Capcom vs SNK 2, both released in 2001. All three games were produced for the Naomi hardware as well. The SNK-produced fighting games of this crossover include the DIMPS-developed portable fighting game SNK vs Capcom, the Match of the Millennium for the Neo Geo Pocket Color in 1999 and SNK vs Capcom, SVC Chaos for the Neo Geo in 2003. From 2003 to 2008, the Versus series of Capcom fighting games saw no new releases, though Capcom and Namco produced the crossover tactical role-playing game Namco Capcom for the PlayStation 2 in 2005. Ryu and Ken are also among the characters playable in 2012's Project X Zone, a tactical role-playing game that draws characters from various Sega, Namco Bandai, and Capcom franchises. Tatsunoko vs Capcom, Cross-Generation of Heroes, released on December 11, 2008, features characters from both Tatsunoko Production and Capcom properties, including Street Fighter characters Ryu, Chun-Li, and Alex, as well as characters like Ken the Eagle of Gatchaman and Kashen of Neo-Human Kashen on Tatsunoko's side. Initially released only in Japan, in response to fan demand, the game received an international release entitled Tatsunoko vs Capcom, Ultimate All-Stars on January 26, 2010. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds was released on February 15, 2011 and includes Akuma, Chun-Li, Crimson Viper, and Ryu. The game features completely new visuals and audio, 3-on-3 gameplay, and online play. The game was also intended to have downloadable content, but the content was disrupted due to an earthquake and tsunami in Tohoku and was released along with additional new content on a separate game titled Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Street Fighter X Tekken was released on March 6, 2012, featuring over 50 playable characters from both the Street Fighter and Tekken fighting franchises. While Street Fighter X Tekken was developed by Capcom, Namco is currently developing their own crossover title, Tekken X Street Fighter. Street Fighter X Mega Man is a crossover platform game that was originally supposed to be a fan game developed by Seo Zonghui, but Capcom distributed and released the game for the PC on December 17, 2012. Street Fighter 3 series. Street Fighter 3, New Generation made its debut in the arcades on the CPS-3 hardware in 1997. Street Fighter 3 discards most of the character roster from previous games, keeping only Ryu and Ken, introducing several new characters in their place. The most notable of these is the grappler Alex, who was designed to be the new lead character of the game, and Gil, who replaced Bison as the game's main antagonist. Street Fighter 3 introduced the Super Arts selection system and the ability to parry an opponent's attack. Several months after its release, it was followed by Street Fighter 3, Second Impact, which made adjustments to the gameplay, added 2 new characters, and featured the return of Akuma as a playable character. Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, released in 1999, is the third and last iteration of Street Fighter 3, brings back Chun-Li and adds 4 new characters. The first 2 Street Fighter 3 games were ported to the Dreamcast as a compilation titled Double Impact. Ports of Third Strike were released for the Dreamcast as a standalone game, then included in the compilation Street Fighter Anniversary Collection for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Gil also became secretly playable on the console version, although he can still be played on the arcade version by using 12's XCOPY. Super Move. In 2010, Capcom announced Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Online Edition. Street Fighter 4 series. The original Street Fighter 4 game concept, Street Fighter 4 Flashback, never made it past the proposal stage. On October 17, 2007, more than 8 years since the release of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike for the arcades, Capcom unveiled Street Fighter 4 at a Capcom Gamers Day event in London. conceived as a direct sequel to the early Street Fighter II games. Street Fighter IV features the return of the original 12 World Warriors and recurring hidden character Akuma, along with 4 new characters in a storyline chronologically set between Street Fighter II and Street Fighter III. The gameplay, while still 2D, features cel-shaded 3D graphics inspired by Japanese sumi-e paintings. The Super Combo system, a Street Fighter mainstay since Super Turbo, returns along with new counter-attacking techniques called focus attacks, as well as new Ultra Combo moves, similar to the Rage Gauge scene in games from SNK Playmore. The arcade version, which runs on the Sutorīto Type X2 hardware, was distributed in Japan on July 2008, with a limited release in North America and the United Kingdom in select arcades in August. A home version was released in the USA and Europe in February 2009, on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and in July 2009 for Windows PC. This features an expanded character roster, as well as all new animated segments that show each character's backstory, and a training mode similar to the Expert Challenges in Street Fighter X. The cast includes 6 characters new to the Street Fighter series. Yoshinori Ono had hinted that the only 2 Street Fighter II characters absent from the game, DJ and T-Hawk, could be available in the game at a later date. Instead, they were to be included in a whole new version of the game. On September 28, 2009, Capcom announced Super Street Fighter IV. The game includes 10 additional characters including 2 characters new to the franchise, Korean Taekwondo fighter Juri and Turkish oil wrestler Hakan. Capcom implemented character balance adjustments and added second Ultra moves for each character. The game features an improved online experience with new modes of play. The game was released on April 27, 2010 for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 at a discounted price point. If a Street Fighter IV save file is detected on the system of play, 2 additional character colors are available. Super Street Fighter IV Arcade Edition was released on December 16, 2010 containing all content from the console release, and featuring 4 additional characters, Yun and Yang from Street Fighter III, and Evil Ryu and Ani, an alternate version of Ryu and Akuma respectively. Seth Killian of Capcom said Arcade Edition was to be the last update to the IV series. On June 15, at E3 2010, a portable conversion of Super Street Fighter IV was confirmed for the Nintendo 3DS. Super Street Fighter IV 3D Edition features 3D stereoscopic technology, multiplayer, and all 35 characters from the original Super Street Fighter IV release. At EVO 2011, Ono announced that a balance patch for Super Street Fighter IV Arcade Edition had been approved by Capcom. The patch was free of charge. A new update for Street Fighter IV titled Ultra Street Fighter IV was announced July 14, 2013 at the 2013 Evolution Championship Series. The new edition will be released in 2014 as an arcade machine, a DLC add-on for existing console versions of Super Street Fighter IV, and as a standalone game containing DLC from previous iterations. Along with various tweaks and additional modes and stages, the update adds 5 additional characters, consisting of Rolento, Elena, Poison and Hugo, who previously appeared in Street Fighter X Tekken, plus an all-new character. Many of the gameplay changes are based on feedback from fans and Capcom community employee Peter Rosas, best known in the fighting game tournament scene as Combo Fiend, is involved with the development. Street Fighter V, in 2011, former Capcom employee Seth Killian suggested that Street Fighter V would arrive before 2019, saying if I have anything to say about it, and I do, you will not have to wait 10 years for Street Fighter V. In July 2013, Ono commented that while he desired to make a Street Fighter V for an 8th-generation console, such as the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, a next-generation game would require a large staff and a large budget. He also stated that making the game a free-to-play title was an option, though he was not fully open to it, and confirmed that the game was currently not in development. In June 2014, Ono refuted claims that Street Fighter V would include a pay-to-win option, citing that Street Fighter V is still in the early planning stages. Related media, animation. The first animation based on the Street Fighter franchise was an unofficial animation released in South Korea in 1992, titled simply Street Fighter. It follows the characters Sryong and Salang as they travel into the world of Street Fighter to defeat M. Bison. An anime film Street Fighter II, the animated movie by Group TAC, was released theatrically in Japan in 1994. Its English adaptation produced by Manga Entertainment was released on home video in 1996. Group TAC also produced an animated TV series Street Fighter II-V, which first aired on Yomiuri TV in 1995, and a 2-episode OVA series, Street Fighter Alpha, the movie, released in 1999. English adaptations of both productions were produced by Manga Entertainment as well. A second OVA based on Street Fighter Alpha, titled Street Fighter Alpha, Generations, was produced specifically for the English market by Studio APPP. In 2005. With publication of Street Fighter II Manga Complete Edition, a 26-minute educational animation film Street Fighter Yomigaru Fujiwara Kyoru was also released in 2004. In it, Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li and E Honda travel back through time and learn about Japanese history. This film contains no fighting scenes and was released only in Japan. OVA Street Fighter IV, The Ties That Bind was released by Studio 4°C in 2009. Street Fighter IV, The Ties That Bind is an animated movie directed by Jiro Kanai that was featured in a bonus disc included in the collector's edition of Street Fighter IV for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The film adaptation was part of Capcom's multi-platform launch for 2008 that also launched video games and a potential TV series in 2008. In Asia, a downloadable voucher for a Super Street Fighter IV movie featuring Juri was given in the collector's edition of the Xbox 360 version. The 35-minute feature serves as an origin story to Juri and a canonical precursor to the game. Although having been fully dubbed in English, the film was not released outside of Asia until its inclusion as part of the Street Fighter 25th Anniversary Collector's Set in 2012. There are 4 original animated trailers for Street Fighter IV that is prequels for its story. Live Action, an American-produced live-action film, titled simply Street Fighter, was also released in 1994, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile, this version's main character, opposite the late Raul Julia as General M. Bison. This film inspired an arcade game and console game both titled Street Fighter, the movie. The film also inspired an American-produced animated TV series Street Fighter, which lasted 2 13-episode seasons from 1995 to 1997. In 2006, Hyde Park Entertainment and Capcom announced its intention to produce a film adaptation of the game's series in a joint venture, with the storyline to focus on the Street Fighter character Chun-Li. Screenwriter Justin Marks was attached to write a script for the adaptation. Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li was released on February 27, 2009 starring Kristen Krok as Chun-Li. Actor and filmmaker Joey Anser co-directed Owen Trevor's 2010 live-action short film Street Fighter, Legacy, starring John Fu as Ryu and Christian Howard as Ken, who co-wrote it with Anser. That same year, Capcom unregistered trademark Vice President of Strategic Planning and Business Development Christian Svensson has confirmed that there will be more Street Fighter films in development. At the San Diego Comic-Con 2012, Anser and Howard announced they are working on a TV series Street Fighter, Assassin's Fist, which was released on Machinima's YouTube channel in May 2014. At the San Diego Comic-Con 2014, Anser announced a second season titled Street Fighter, World Warrior for a late 2015 or early 2016 release date. Manga and Manhwa. Masami Kanzaki's Street Fighter II manga was one of the few Street Fighter manga titles translated into English. Masahiko Nakahira did 4 different Street Fighter manga series, Kami Gaiden, Street Fighter Zero, Street Fighter, Sakura Gambaru, and Street Fighter III. Ryu Final. Street Fighter Alpha, Sakura Gambaru and Street Fighter III, Ryu Final have all been released in English by UDON. Two characters created by Nakahira, Evil Raya and Karen Kanzuki, have been integrated into the Street Fighter video games. There is a broad selection of Street Fighter manhwas published in Hong Kong and Taiwan in booklet format. The first one, based on Street Fighter II, was released on August 2, 1991 by J Dynasty Comics. Malibu Comics launched a Street Fighter comic series in 1993, but it flopped, lasting only 3 issues. UDON was licensed by Capcom to produce an American comic book based on the Street Fighter franchise, in addition to the comic adaptations of Darkstalkers and Rival Schools. This series draws not only on the established Street Fighter canon, but also occasionally addresses various continuity retcons, and even draws from fanon and non-official sources as well. In 2005, UDON released Street Fighter, Eternal Challenge, the first Capcom series history and art book to be translated into English. Later, UDON continued from its original Street Fighter series with Street Fighter II and Street Fighter II, Turbo. 3 separate Street Fighter Legends mini-series and a Street Fighter IV mini-series were also released. Card games. In 2006, Sabertooth Games released a Street Fighter set for its Universal Fighting System game along with a set for Soul Calibur 3. This was not the gaming company's first release for UFS, that being a battle box for Penny Arcade. Later added licenses were based on SNK's King of Fighters and Samurai Shodown. The first set for Street Fighter featured cards for Chun-Li, Dhalsim, Ken, Ryu, Sagat and Zangief. A later expansion, Street Fighter, World Warriors, included the remaining characters from the original Street Fighter II arcade series, Blanka, Barog, E. Honda, Guile, M. Bison and Vega. Another set, Street Fighter, The Next Level, was released parallel with the SNK release, featuring the characters of Akuma, Fei Long, Dudley and Cammy. A new expansion, Street Fighter, The Dark Path, was released in 2007 along with the next Soul Calibur 3 set, Soul Arena, featuring a new version of Chun-Li and Evil Ryu, along with Adorn, Charlie, Rose, Sakura, T-Hawk and 12. A new set, Street Fighter, Extreme Rivals, which was also released in 2007, features Cody, DJ, Ibuki, Amika, and a new version of Ken. That same year, Sabertooth Games released an exclusive battle pack featuring a battle between Ryu and Akuma. These 260 card decks are fully compatible with the UFS and contain 36 unique cards. Another trading card game, the now discontinued Epic Battles, also features Street Fighter characters, as well as characters from other fighting game franchises, such as Mortal Kombat. Miscellaneous. In 1994, White Wolf released Street Fighter, the storytelling game based on the series and featuring characters from Super Street Fighter II. The system used many of the game mechanics of the World of Darkness games. Irish software company Cryptologic released a Street Fighter II slot machine themed after the series. Characters. References in popular culture. Due to the enduring popularity of the series, it has been referenced a number of times in various movies, television shows, and other mediums. Film and TV. Jackie Chan's film City Hunter features a fight scene where Chan and his opponent transform into various members of the Street Fighter II cast, including Ken, E. Honda, Guile, Dhalsim, and Chun-Li. In the Family Guy episode TX for 2, Peter Griffin and an Asian dry cleaners operator named Mr. Washi Washi did battle in a parody of the original Street Fighter II. Peter had the moveset of either Ken or Ryu, while Mr. Washi Washi had the moveset of E. Honda. In another episode, Sibling Rivalry, Peter mentions some of the characters' names, which are Blanka, Chun-Li, Guile, Zangief and E. Honda, before Brian cuts him off by saying that Street Fighter. In the Gravity Falls episode Fight Fighters, the character Rumble McSkirmish, from the fictional video game Fight Fighters, is based on Ryu and Ken. The other characters in the video game itself bear a strong resemblance to Street Fighter. The animated film Wreck-It Ralph features cameo appearances from Street Fighter characters, including Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Cammy, Blanka, Zangief and M. Bison. Comics. The comic book limited series Kingdom Come features a minor character named Tokyo Rose, who is modeled after Chun-Li. Issue number 17 of the comic book series Gen 13 Bootleg has a cover parodying a match from Street Fighter, with the characters Grunt and Burnout dressed as Ryu and Ken respectively. Issue number 25 of the comic book series Secret 6 features a cover parodying the layout and writing style used for the character select screen in Street Fighter 4, with the cast of Secret 6 replacing the Street Fighter characters. Issue number 27 of the comic book series Deadpool features a scene where the titular character performs the Shoryuken punch on Kitty Pryde in order to provoke Wolverine into fighting him, even going so far as to call out the move's name like in the video games. He also uses the technique in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds. The romantic comedy manga High Score Girl by Rinsu Goshikiri is set in 1991 and involves a boy and a girl who develop a friendship after challenging each other on Street Fighter II. Music: the band Hadouken named themselves after the technique of the same name. In 2007, the American band Man Factory released the first installment of his Street Fighter-themed rock opera trilogy Street Fight, which revolves around characters and events taken from the video games and Street Fighter storyline. In 2010, the band released the second part of the album, titled Round 2. Video games: the Shoryuken technique is later featured in Capcom's Mega Man X series after earning fame in Street Fighter, and can be learned and used by the protagonist characters Mega Man X and Zero. In Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the Marvel Comics character Deadpool also uses the Shoryuken technique. After building and equipping the Tenderizer's weapon in Dead Rising 3, Nick Ramos can use the Shoryuken technique. Hadouken, Hadouken or Hadoken, is a special attack used by Ryu, Ken, and other Street Fighter characters. Takashi Nishiyama, the creator of Street Fighter, credits the 1970s anime space battleship Yamato and a missile called the Hadou as the origin of Hadouken. The move is achieved by the character thrusting their palms forward, sending a surge of spirit energy, or ki, flying towards the opponent. It is normally performed by the player moving the joystick or D-pad a quarter circle forward towards the opponent from the down position, then pressing a punch button. Although the execution has been always the same, the design, speed, damage and other attributes of the technique vary in different games. Most fighting games of the sprite-based era used projectile special moves, and while the actual type of projectile launched varies from game to game and character to character, the execution and behavior of these attacks are often rather similar to the Hadouken. These moves are sometimes informally referred to as a Hadouken, or fireball. The Hadouken can usually be performed in 3 different degrees depending on which type punch is used. These will affect its speed, damage caused on impact, amount of recovery frames, and sometimes its range. The Hadouken itself has many variations depending on the character in question that the move is associated with. For example, both Ryu and Akuma have used a fire-based variant of the move called the Shakunetsu Hadouken or Blazing Surge Fist, which briefly engulfs its target in flames. Another variant that appears is the ability to execute a Hadouken whilst in the air which travels diagonally down and forward. Later titles in the series that use super combo moves ramp up the power of the Hadouken, evolving it into the Shinkyu Hadouken. This takes one of 2 forms depending on the game, an outsized fireball, or a blast of constant energy. Street Fighter III introduced the Denjin Hadouken, an unblockable, electrified version that can stun opponents. It could be charged by holding down a punch button for an increased number of hits, resulting in more stun and damage dealt. In Super Street Fighter IV, Gouken can perform this technique. It is blockable, but will still inflict stun damage even if blocked. In the Capcom vs SNK series, Evil Ryu used a more powerful version called Metsu Hadouken, which acted similar to Denjin Hadouken, being unblockable and stunning the opponent. The latest game in the series, Street Fighter IV, brought back the Metsu Hadouken, though it instead acts simply like a more powerful variant of the Shinkyu Hadouken. The Hadouken ability also appeared in Mega Man X and its remake Mega Man, Maverick Hunter X as a powerful secret move for X. In Mega Man X4, one of the bosses, Magma Dragoon, used the Hadouken ability. Another version of the Hadouken was created in Mega Man X, Command Mission, where if one is able to beat the secret bosses, the Tails clan in a battle, the Tails could throw the Annihilator Hadouken at them. In Mega Man Xtreme and its sequel, a fighting style called Shotokan can be acquired and allows X to use the Hadouken. In March 2013, Makan Kasapo, a popular internet meme, developed in Japan which featured staged photos of people in a Hadouken pose seemingly striking adversaries with a surge of energy. This meme has been categorized as a variation of planking and typically captures a person in a Hadouken pose while one or more other participants jump up in the air as if they were being hit by the Hadouken. Reception. Since the release of the first Street Fighter game in August 1987, the series has had total home software sales of 33 million units by 2012, and arcade cabinet sales of over 500,000 units, generating more than $1 billion in revenue, qualifying it for the list of best-selling video game franchises. The best-selling game in the series, Street Fighter II, exceeded $1.5 billion in revenue. In 2012, Complex ranked Street Fighter at number 10 on the list of the best video game franchises. See also, List of Street Fighter games, List of Street Fighter characters, references. External links: Street Fighter Capcom USA's official Street Fighter page, Street Fighter, an external wiki, Street Fighter Group all the 135 games and related characters and platforms. Fighting Street original game artwork. Fighter Media character artwork for all 86 Street Fighter characters. Street Fighter 25th Anniversary Tribute to character artworks for 88 Street Fighter characters. Eurogamer Retrospective, Street Fighter.